Well, Greg Sheridan is one of the most respected and scholarly journalists in this country. He's actually the foreign affairs editor for the Australian newspaper. He's not given to overstatement. He has described Daniel Andrews as, and I quote, the worst performing, most unsuccessful Premier or Territory leader in Australia. He has called the Melbourne hotel quarantine mismanagement an absolute fiasco and, quote, the most damaging state government failure in modern Australian history. Greg Sheridan joins us via Skype in Melbourne. Greg, are you locked down?
In a way, Alan, but I just indulge me for 1 second. What a joy it is to be speaking to you, Alan. We spoke so often on the radio, and they were rays of sunshine in my life to speak to you. And I'm so glad the nation hasn't lost you. And here you are, and here we are. So that's a terrible self-indulgence. But I'm locked down in pretty comfortable
I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful. Look, you said the most damaging state government failure in modern Australian history, but no one accepts responsibility or apologises.
Yes, I think this is a real problem, Alan, in our broader political culture across Australia. It's true of all state governments, but it's worst of all in Victoria. I mean, the ABC doesn't live up to its charter. It has no state-based current affairs, TV programs. The Victorian Parliament is not sitting. The Public Accounts Committee has decided not to have any hearings on this before August at the earliest. Andrews has decided that he doesn't have to answer a single question on this fiasco because he's appointed a judicial inquiry. The local media, frankly, is pretty soft on him. ABC local radio is pretty soft on him. And, he's not a tyrant or anything, but this is not a democratic, this is not an accountable democratic system. He's under no pressure from the mechanisms of democracy.
You said today he wrote today, there is no effective democracy in Victoria.
I think that's right. I think the same happens with state governments around Australia. They don't get enough scrutiny. But it's worse in Victoria because they're on the centre-left and on the pro-woke kind of side of things. They're not really getting beaten up by the ABC on a daily basis. And the Victorian Parliament seldom sits and never gets any media coverage. And Andrews just treats the whole thing with disdain. When he was asked about the Public Accounts Committee, he just said, nothing to do with me.
Yeah, he was asked about the opposition this week and he said, I don't have time for silly political games. And, of course, he's got this judicial inquiry, which means he's asked a question. No, well, that's the subject of an inquiry now. We'll worry about all of that later. Greg, just before you go, where is this going to end?
Well, Alan, two points I'd make in response to that. First of all, this is really a diabolical political culture. You cannot allow this to continue in Australia. The states should be abolished if they're not going to be accountable. Where does it end in virus terms? Well, we beat the virus before. We're only in trouble because of the monumental, unbelievable, staggering incompetence of the Andrews government. He used to talk in these moral absolutes. If you go shopping, people will die. And then he didn't bother assembling a professional force to look after people in hotel quarantine. Now, I guess in 6 weeks, we'll get back to where we were with a very low infection rate or close to zero. And then we'll open up again slowly. I don't think we can get back to international travel anytime soon. And I think this is going to cause a lot of damage to the economy for a lot longer than we originally thought.